Hello and welcome back to IT Security Labs, and today we're going to be completing Weasel from Tryhackme. And as you can see, this was created by Husky Hacks, and this is on 10.10.187.166. It's a Windows machine, and I'm on this kick where I want to learn more about Windows attacks, and this one is going to teach us about Windows Subsystem for Linux and how to escape it, and also how to mount the file system from it. So this will be easy. They say to start the machine, I join the room and they say basic nmap scan should return 6 well-known ports. So we just copy that and run a basic nmap scan. I'm trying to be as efficient as possible. So just hit that here. You can even do a VV to see it in real time. And as you can see, we see port 8088, 136, 22, which is kind of weird because it's Windows, right? So there's 22. Sometimes people do open port 22 on Windows, but rarely do you see that. So that's an interesting one. I also see port 8888. Usually that's also interesting because that's not a normal Windows port. And 445, which is SMB. So this is going to complete our nmap. Let's see if we can sign into SMB using just anonymous logins. All right, so it's finished. If you look at our results here, here's 8088. It's running Jupyter notebooks, so that's good. So we can visit in our Kali, just the IP address, and give it port 8088. Let's see if we can access Jupyter notebooks. All right, so it's saying it's requiring us to have a password. That's authentication is enabled. So we need a token or password. We don't have that. So let's do first SMB map. -u. We're going to say guest. Okay, so here's the usage for SMB map, user and password, directory, and then host -h. Okay, so let's fix that. We don't need this. So using SMB map as guest, we're trying to see if we can list directories anonymously, and we are trying to see if we can get our initial foothold. When you get this, we're checking it where we have access and also if it's unique. IPC is usually the default one. Read write in the other side team. That's interesting. So we use SMB client for that to access that. Using SMB client as guest, going to our IP address, data side team, which is this one that we can read and write, no password. If anonymous login is allowed, we can say dir. Here, when we look, we should see like Weasel.txt, requirements.txt, pictures, papers, PDF, miscellaneous, which is a directory. So you can download all these and go through them. But I went to MSC to see what is in there, and you see Jupyter token. If we say more, because I don't want to download it to my Kali, then that I just want to do a quick bank job here. Let's open it inside of that since we have read and write. All right, so we see that here's our token. Copy it, come back here. Jupyter token, login. So this should allow us to have some projects here. If we are an admin, we should be able to even have a code execution from my use of it. So if we go to here, I guess new, we can run Python 3 code. We should be able to if you have used Jupyter notebooks. But we also have a terminal here that's enabled. So go straight to the terminal because we don't want to waste too much time there. All right. So once we're in here, we can do an ls -la, just basic enumeration to see if we have anything. We see some bash history. We can check that. We also see sudo as admin successful, which shows us that someone has sudo permissions here. That file will not be there. We also see this that looks like some SSH key. We can read that, so we can cat that file. I guess I don't have copy paste, but for now, let me also do sudo -l, see if we have any real sudo permissions. So we see that we have all here. So let's do sudo su. Okay, we don't have a password, so that's our problem. Instead, so we can assume this. Let's go for the second one. We can execute this file here. Ideally, I would bring this back Because my copy paste is not working, but we can say sudo. Let's see if we can go there. Okay. So we don't see this file that we allegedly can execute. So simple, let's put one. We can create one and put any code that we want, but why don't we just copy bin bash and name it Jupyter here. So now we have it. If we say sudo and run that file, I hope it doesn't require the full path. It says we can execute that file from here. And if we run that, since it is a copy of bash, we should just get root. Okay, so we need the full path. I thought I can be sneaky here, but it doesn't like that. We actually need to say sudo and execute the full path. So sudo Jupyter. Okay, so if we run that with sudo, we should now get our root. Okay, so what we just did is we just copied bin bash and named it whatever we can execute. Simple privilege escalation. But we are in Linux here. The nmap results here shows us that we are in Windows. As you can see, our SMB even confirms that. This tells me that we are in some Windows subsystem for Linux. And we can look it up very quickly, like, hey, how do I interact with Windows subsystem for Linux? I found this nice article online when I was going through this, hacking Windows subsystem for Linux 2. And there's a few things we can do. We can just try to see if we have anything in the mount. So cd/mnt, since we are now root, ls cdc. Is it already mounted? Okay, so there's nothing in C. There should be something in C. So we need to find a command that allows us to just mount the whole file system. So it should be in that cat, it's etc wslc.conf, just in case it's there. Okay. Do we have anything in here for our config? WSL.conf. That's our file that should tell us. Oh yeah, auto mount is false. So we can change this to true and hopefully it mounts, but we now need to hopefully reboot or something like that. So let's find a command to just mount for ourselves. Okay, so the command to mount is mount -t drvsf, and we want to mount C to mntc, which is where we are. It already exists, so we can just try to mount it there. So that's the command to mount. What did I do? Okay, so it looks like I got it backwards. I didn't think it mattered. FS, like that. I had no idea that it actually matters whether it's SF or FS. Okay, cd/mnt, then it's cd to C, I guess. Here, if we see everything mounted, then we know that we now have access to Windows file system. So here is everything. Let's go to users, and there, and here's our user, and here's administrator. So let's start with administrator. Okay, we now have access to the whole system, I guess. Root the text. So we can just read the full thing. And here's our root flag. The root flag. Let's go and see if we can get the user flag as well. And this will be very quick. Let's go to okay. And here's our user.text. Okay, so that was our machine. I hope you learned something about Windows Subsystem for Linux. Still not sure why this is a medium machine, but we got the flags. In other exams like the OSCP, our shell here might not be acceptable. They probably want a fully interactive remote shell, and this is in a browser. So we can just ask this to give us a remote shell using other ways. Otherwise, thank you for being here, and I hope to see you next time.